Just like mouth noises.
It's the worst.
I hope, Lucas, you can't use that for the intro. Just like, okay, should we do this?
Let's do it.
So, welcome to another episode of Tape It Till You Make It.
Awesome.
I'll be hosting today. First time ever. My name's Adam. I'm an editor here at Noravera, and I'm joined by Ashley.
Yeah, I'm Ashley. I am the operations manager and producer at Noravera.
Awesome. How long have you been here now?
Goodness, in Vancouver or at Noravera?
At Noravera.
At Noravera, I think 3.5 years or just over 3 years.
You're part of the furniture now.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty nice furniture.
yeah, it's good. It's good. No, well, Noravera couldn't operate without you. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, it's good. So people at home might have figured out already that we're not from Vancouver.
Yeah,
We're
I
the
think
oddballs.
so.
Yeah.
It's
so,
the international team today.
Yes. Go immigrants.
Surprise!
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about where you're from.
Yeah, so I am originally from Auckland, New Zealand, way down in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here to Vancouver directly September 2016, so about 4.5 years ago.
Cool. And what brought you here?
What brought me here? Film brought me here. Film and television, the industry, the general, all of the big bright lights is what drew me in.
Yeah. It is the place to be for film and stuff.
It really is.
So I'm from Yorkshire in England, and I only moved here just short of 2 years ago. So I'm fresh, and this
Fresh
is
off
my
the boat?
and this is my first role in Vancouver. So I struck lucky.
Yeah.
Getting here and straight away started working, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
It was a novelty at the time, doing a video interview online from England and being like, I can work for a company in Vancouver, but I feel like that's pretty normal now.
Oh, so we interviewed you while you were still at home.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I found the show reel on the website and was like, oh crap, I gotta at least inquire about this company, and then ended up on Instagram and saw that there was a post looking for an editor, and
Right.
I was like, this is too good to be true, like this is crazy. So I immediately got on the phone with Jeff, and I had to stay in the office way late because John and Jeff couldn't interview me till like 5 p.m. here, and
Right.
England's 8 hours ahead, so I luckily lived opposite my office, so like I just like let myself in and set up lights and stuff, and had like a video chat like way late in the night doing like an interview.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was quite an event. I'm glad that there was no one else in the office.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that would have been super awkward. Although everyone knew I was leaving, it was like to move here rather than to go to a rival company or whatever. So, but yeah. So I actually didn't know too much about the film industry in Vancouver before I researched moving here. Like it wasn't like
Me too, actually.
something to obtain. Yeah. So did you just like stumble into a role when you got here, or?
I knew I wanted to come to Canada because I knew that the film industry was big here. I didn't know it was as big. I didn't realize Netflix and Prime and Disney had set up shop in Vancouver. And I actually thought that it would be a better idea to move to Toronto. Just because it was the biggest city. I really had when I first started looking into it and researching it. So that was plan A, was to go to Toronto. But the more research I did, I realized that there was a lot going on in Vancouver, and just the place itself really drew me in. I think, the mountains, the water, that kind of like outdoorsy vibe, the Pacific Northwest, as we love to call it. Really drew me in, and it's just so similar to home for me. So it felt right. I think I have to be within, at least half an hour of the ocean at some direction.
It's funny you should say that it's quite similar to your home, because actually when I was looking at places to move, I just knew I wanted to go adventure somewhere. And I knew that I wanted mountains and ocean and things. And we actually looked at New Zealand.
Oh, really?
And was thinking about moving there, but it was going to be too difficult and too hard for both of our work and things like that. So we decided to like look elsewhere, and we stumbled across Vancouver and was like, holy crap, this is it. So like, yeah, we initially thought like, oh yeah, we could make Auckland work, and no, we can't.
It's a long way away too. It's a big distance.
Yeah, especially from the UK too. It's like, it would be so difficult to even talk to anyone from home.
It's like I think at the moment they're like 21 hours ahead of us, which is actually 5 hours behind us, but tomorrow.
What? That's a mind fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty. You have to really think about it.
Yeah.
It's worst at this point when we're in summertime and they're in wintertime, because there's a 5 hour difference. So for me, when I get home at 6 o'clock and I'm cooking dinner and want to give them a call, for them it's like the middle of the day, and I'm like, can't really call people when they're at work and such. So then when they get home, it's like my midnight, and it's like when I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
So that one's a bit tough, but in their summertime, our wintertime, there's only a 3 hour difference. So when they finish work at 7, it's 10 o'clock at night for us. So that's way better. That's crazy
that the difference fluctuates that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just shows how far away.
Yeah, exactly. A whole day ahead. And when I travel from Canada to New Zealand, I actually miss an entire day. Like, I'll never have that day in my life because it just doesn't exist.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
It just disappears.
Time travel.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely feel like I made the right decision coming here. Like, I'd love to go to New Zealand at some point. Like, it looks amazing. I'm sure you love it.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do love it. And they have a film industry there too, which is pretty prominent. Obviously, everyone knows Lord of the Rings and
well, that's the first one I thought of.
Yeah, Peter Jackson and Weta Workshop. And there's a lot going on there. It's just a smaller community. There's a lot of people who have worked in that industry for a long time, and they have, a lot of people who are kind of already ingrained in that industry. And I never really tried to get into the industry in New Zealand. I went straight into sports television, surprisingly, straight out of film school. Crazy enough, I was a assistant satellite operations coordinator, which sounds way more cool than what it
sounds so technical. What was involved?
So you work for Sky. You guys have Sky Television.
I used to live above the Sky offices. And they're big in the UK.
Yeah, they're huge. It's I don't know if it's the same company or if it's a subsidiary or some such, but we worked for Sky Television New Zealand. And you have your programming team who basically buy the sports that viewers want to see. And it would be my team's job to contact the broadcasters who are hosting those games and organize the live feeds back and forth. So mostly admin, really, and putting numbers in places. But it's cool because you got to learn about satellites and what's in the sky and talk to people all over the world. And
your work gets seen. Right, the stuff that you're contributing to gets seen, and I guess that's a big motivation for anyone in this industry. Is like the big goal is to get stuff seen. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, what did you do when you first came to Vancouver? Because I kind of landed lucky in this role, and I came from an agency, so a marketing agency, digital online. Had some really great mentors there. Yeah. So shout out to Billy and Dan. I'll make sure they listen to this one. So I came from that kind of background and wanted to specify in video, so came to a smaller place that was more focused and more passionate about it. But I'm guessing you just kind of landed and was like, what's available?
Yeah, I went the other way. So I really wanted to get into the big bad film industry. It's got a little piece of my heart. I do really love it. I love the film and television industry. When I first moved here, I was actually working in a hostel. So yeah, when I first moved here, I was staying in a hostel, and I ended up getting a job there because I just needed to get a job. I just had to keep bringing in an income.
Still stay in the hostel while you were working there? So it was like a room and board kind of thing?
It was supposed to be, but my first shift was actually at my new apartment. So, with a 30-minute bus ride at 11 o'clock at night, because I was doing the night shift at the hostel downtown, living in kits. Wasn't ideal.
No, that sounds gross.
Yeah, it's awful. And I'm sure, our listeners in Vancouver will know the Same Sun hostel in downtown Granville Strip. So
I'll keep an eye out for it if I ever see it.
Yeah. I took you there one time. Remember that? The Moose Lounge?
Oh, yes. No.
Oh.
Had we had a bit to drink by then?
Yeah, it was after an event, I'm pretty sure, when we were all downtown.
Oh, it must have been, was it deleted? I don't know. Maybe.
Potentially. Who knows? Anywho, I got distracted. What were we talking about?
Your job's in Vancouver.
Yeah, so it's a funny story. I had just moved into this new apartment, and my roommate was a mechanic, and I was getting ready to go to work. It was late at night. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he got a phone call from a client of his, and it was this guy, and he said, "Something's happened to my car. I need you to fix it tonight. I've got to be on location tomorrow. Can you help me?" And James was, a really nice guy, and said, "Yeah, why not? Come on over and I'll fix it." And James, my roommate, knew that I was looking to get into the film industry, and he said as a side comment, like, "Oh, hey, Ash, like, my client's coming over. He works in the film industry. Maybe you could just chat to him real quick." Like running out the door to go to my hostel job, security guard at the door, like ridiculous.
Is that what it was? Security guard?
Night shift cleaner security.
Just a bit of everything.
Just dumb, yeah. So he came over, and we just started chatting. I told him that I was super interested in getting involved and really knew nothing and just needed a shot and just needed to get my foot in the door. And he said, "Are you available tomorrow at 2?" I said, "Yep."
Okay.
I'll make it work. I'm working till 4 a.m., but I'll figure it out, and I'll see you at 2. And the rest is kind of history. Yeah, he just sent me on like little location running jobs. Mm-hmm. So the locations department, that's where I started, just doing bits and pieces, running admin stuff and picking things up, dropping things off, bits and pieces like that. And then eventually made a little bit of a good name for myself. They must have liked me because they kept bringing me back, and got myself onto a set as an on-set PA. And that's it's basically your starting point for anyone looking to get into the film industry, is that production assistant type role, where you are part of the locations department and you're really just a
cone.
Pretty much.
No, I have no experience of being a PA, but I've heard a few horror stories. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's a rite of passage, though.
It is a rite of passage. It's a huge learning experience, especially if you have no experience in the industry. Mm-hmm. There's so much to learn about film sets. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different departments. There's a lot of different people. It's high. It's high energy, and there's everything's moving very quickly. So being a production assistant is a really good space to be able to just stand back and kind of watch from the outside.
Be a fly on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just observe and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have, a lot of interest in actually being a part of it, you can use it as an opportunity to, get to know people, start networking, figure out what you like. The best thing for me about the film industry is that there's literally a job for anyone. Yeah.
There's so many moving parts, right? And everything from like admin and wardrobe and props and stuff to the techie side and camera side and
there's everything. There's
crafty.
If you're a good cook, you can do crafty. If you like, cameras, obviously you're in the camera, lighting, grip departments, wardrobe, hair and makeup. there's, you know, so many side things too, like within the set building department, you know, you have construction, you have metal work, you have paint, you have set dressing, you have sculpting. Like there's just so many niche departments that if you do have a specialized skill, it's actually a perfect place to progress career wise into something that might be a bit different than what the mainstream day-to-day job might be for those things.
Yeah, I think that's what's super interesting to me, is that it's basically a big band of specialists that come together, and it all works like cogs in a clock. You know, it's like
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. There's so many moving parts, but like everyone is so specialized.
Yeah.
And like I'm trying to specialize a little bit more and kind of like narrow down my skills, because I started just doing a bit of everything and wanted to like I figured out quite early that I wanted to go into editing, but like still even then there's like so many different fields you could go down, whether it's like MoGraph or like color editing or sound design or whatever. You've even got specialists for those in the film industry, so it's like
absolutely
you're always narrowing down.
Yeah, you're never just an editor.
No.
It's a very
editor is like, yeah,
broad
it's a multi-tool term for sure. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I can, you know, after the production assistant job was good for like a week, and then after that you're kind of like, oh man, this is tough work. You know, the hours of the film industry are long, so anyone new to doing it can be a bit of a shock to the system. It definitely was for me. I somewhat expected it, but just the scale of what you can be doing sometimes is a bit much. Like standing for 15 hours straight in a parking lot in the pouring rain with no cover. It can be pretty grueling, but you get through that and you move on. And
yeah, you've got to love it. You've got to love the idea of the end goal.
Yeah,
like being a part of something.
You got to be committed.
Better. Yeah, like
you gotta want it.
I feel like that would weed out people who don't really want to be there very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it does. It really gives people in other positions who are obviously looking at PAs to bring in, you know, trainees and people that they see have potential, and train them up and bring them into their little world. And lucky enough, that's what happened for me, is I was scouted a little bit by the second assistant director, and she gave me a shot, and she asked me to be the training assistant director on the next show with her, and that just gave me an opportunity to really show what I was capable of. And that's where I really found my feet, was that position, which is so much, to me it was so much fun. You get to meet and be involved a lot more than what you would in the production assistant role, and you get to, you know, be involved with people, which I really, really enjoy, and help people. You know, I had a lot to do with the cast and talent. A lot of what I would do is kind of keeping them updated on, you know, what was going on set, and just make sure that they're comfortable when they arrive on set. And, you know, we had kids on our show, so a lot of what my job was shuffling the kids back and forth from the schoolroom. So I felt a bit of responsibility, well, quite a bit of responsibility there, with just, you know, making sure that the right thing was happening, and that, you know, it's tough work being a child actor and having to go to set and go back to school and sit this test, and we'll bring you back in half an hour to shoot this scene. And
like, kids find it hard being focused on anything, let alone if you throw all that kind of stuff into. Yeah. And like in films, that's an exciting place to be. It must be good being a kid actor to a degree, but yeah.
To a degree, it's definitely a different life. You live, you know, months at a time with a very select amount of people. You know, you don't have that
it's quite sheltered.
Normal school life where you're around all your friends, and you go to set, and your schoolroom is a tiny little room in the production warehouse. You know,
And you're only there because you have to be there for the school thing. No one really wants you to be. They want you to be on set.
Yeah, and they don't want to do school. They want to be on set.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one for sure. But I really enjoy that part of the job. Definitely.
Was there quite a lot of pressure as well? I feel like, I'd guess that stepping into a role like that where someone's giving you a chance, you'd feel like a lot of pressure not to mess up. Because I guess there's so many people in the lineup behind you that want your job, right?
Oh, yeah. So I strive on pressure. I think I perform, I don't want to say at my best, but I think I perform well under pressure. I think it gives me that, like, you got to prove yourself and you got to prove that you're that it's, that I don't want to say worthy of being there because that's not the right words, because of course I was, but it's like I felt like I did need to prove myself. And I was just really lucky to have mentors that were willing to teach the right way. Like the entire AD department on the couple of shows that I did work on were awesome and have just given me so much for my future career, especially, being here at Noravera. They really taught me the right way to be an AD, which is so valuable anywhere.
Yeah, and I think any type of like role in this kind of industry comes with pressure. Like, you're not going to get any.
Time is money.
Yeah, time is money, and from an editor's perspective, it's like you turn up every day and you have to turn creativity and productivity, and you've got to be mindful of time and process, and you've got to turn all that on like a tap.
Yeah.
And that kind of pressure is difficult, but you've got to learn how to like use it and see it as positive pressure and motivation rather than stuff that's working against you, because you can't fight it. You've just got to kind of ride it.
And it's hard when you're having a bad day.
Sounds so cheesy. But,
it can be a lot. Like if you just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and you're starting an edit that day, or you're finishing an edit that day.
I think that would be more dangerous, because starting the edit, like, you'd probably, if you were in a bit of a bad mood, you'd probably be a bit more ruthless with the cuts. You'd probably be a bit quicker because,
chop.
Chop. No, useless. No. Like, chucking clips away. But like at the end of an edit where you've got to watch it for the billionth time to QC it, and not just remember what it should look like and kind of skim over it. You have to really watch it. And that's where the mistakes can happen a lot of the time. Yeah,
that attention to detail.
Yeah, for sure. But pressure is really, really a part of the job in what we do.
Yeah, it is.
I think if people can't handle the pressure, they maybe should do something else.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know.
Deadlines are deadlines, budgets are budgets. And I feel like a lot of industries have that as their, framework. And this is a creative space, whether it be film industry, television, marketing company, social media, digital agency. All of these things stem from taking someone's creativity and then saying, now you have this much time and this much money to do it. And that's always difficult, because what you as a creative would want to see happen with this baby that you've created can sometimes be, reined in a little bit with the restrictions that are set in place around you, which I know can be really tough to deal with.
Yeah, and it's like when you've got so many people like having inputs and creative input along the way. It's like, if you were trying to make like, I'm gonna do a phrase, I'm gonna go into a weird analogy right now. He loves those.
He does.
Bless him. But yeah, if say you're trying to make a pot on a wheel, but you can only use one of your hands, and then the producer's got a hand on it too, and then the client comes in and starts prodding it, and you've got to keep that wheel going, because you've got to make the pot in time, and you've got to try and guide it where you want it to go, but there's all these external things, and it could all just spin out and end up like a blob. or it could be an amazing face.
Yeah, I love it. I do. You're totally right. It is. Sometimes there can be a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and I'm a little bit of both. Yes, I'm a producer, and yes, I'm running budgets and watching time, and at the end of the day, I'm watching the bottom line. But I'm also a creative, and I love being involved in the creative process, and I have a lot of respect for the creative process. I think that's a really good balance to have, especially in production and in producing things. It's not fun to be the bad guy, right? And
no, definitely not.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be. You don't really have a choice, but it's really nice when you don't have to be.
Yeah. and from an editor's perspective as well, like, it really does make a difference when people who are working on the project in not necessarily the most creative roles, if they at least understand, or like you said, respect it, you can feel that, and it builds trust within the team, and then you can actually make something pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel that's an important part. So, so how do you think the industry in New Zealand compares to here? I know we touched on it briefly, but like, I feel like there's so much variety here.
Yeah.
Compared to back in England. Like, in England, it's like, I felt like if I was going to continue, I would probably have to go freelance and find my own stuff, or go down like a marketing agency kind of route. There wasn't anything really that was like big film production in the north of England that I could think of, like, that was consistent. But here it seems to be going on all the time. But would you agree with that with New Zealand, or?
100%. I think the huge thing here is the online streaming platforms. That's where, like, so much content is being created for these online platforms, and so much of it is being done here in North America, and specifically in the wholly Pacific Northwest region, and within Washington and LA type areas of the States. This is a little film secret, but a lot of the time when you're watching movies that are supposed to be in the United States, everything that's based in Seattle is based in Vancouver.
Yeah, like my partner Katie and I were watching a show recently. I forget the name of it. I think it was like Imposters or something. It was like some trash TV, but Katie really liked the look of the show, so I was like, I'll give it a go. We started watching it. It was meant to be Seattle, and it was literally just like stock helicopter shots of Seattle and then gas town.
Yeah, the establishing shots.
Yeah.
They spend one day going and getting a bunch of establishing shots in a helicopter, and then put them at the start of every episode, and then shot the rest of it in
So
Vancouver.
We were watching it, and like, I ended up watching the whole season with her just purely because I was location spotting and finding it really interesting. And it was like, there was one scene where they were meant to be like having this really serious conversation, like a regroup of these friends, and they were meant to be like in Seattle in the rain somewhere in this quiet place, and it was the train carriage in Spaghetti Factory. Yeah. And I just was like, that's ridiculous.
That's hilarious.
and like there was like 3 scenes all shot down Alexander. Yeah. And there's always shoots going on down there, but I've never seen it actually in a show before. And it was just like, I walk down the street every day. And I find that super interesting, and I love Vancouver for that, because I see it everywhere now. Yeah.
And it makes me want to watch shows that I wouldn't necessarily watch either. Off the top of my head, Riverdale, Supergirl, Arrow, some of the X-Men movies, Star Trek movies, Planet of the Apes. There's just so many things that you would look at and think immediately that they're in the States, and then you as a Vancouverite watch them, you're like, wait, no, this is Vancouver, like that's down the street.
That's not actually Beijing, that's Chinatown.
And then following the movie for the storyline is gone, because all you want to do is just like pick out the next place that you recognize, and you get to the end of the movie and be like, I didn't watch it.
But I think that's, to a degree, when I'm watching films, like, I'm not just like sucked in by the plot. If I am, then it's one hell of a good film. Yeah. But I get more enjoyment from knowing about those behind the scenes in the process, and that adds more texture for me. So if I know where a location is, I'm like, oh, like that's such a good use of that to tell the story.
Yeah.
And
There's the running joke that nobody wants to watch a movie with anyone that's from the film industry because we just sit there picking it apart the whole time.
yeah, I've heard that from my mum a lot. You ruined all our films.
Just be quiet.
No, I did go through a phase of pausing it, which was, I don't do that anymore, but I used to be like, oh, can I just rewind that? I want to see that shot again. And that's
that's a no-go.
I've learned, I toned it back.
Yeah. If you want to do that, you have to watch it a second time. If you've missed it, you've missed it, and that's the point.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that I missed it. It was that I was like mind blown and wanted to see it again and learn how they did it. So it was like, that kind of thing. That was when I was like in college. So, you know, I was still a little baby. But yeah, I've got a lot better at that. But yeah, Vancouver is so good for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy. Like when I first moved here and I'd see film sets on the street, and just like walking through, and I was like, oh my god, there's a film set there, and like wanted to get my phone out slightly and like take a few pictures, and like I was like nosy into like the director's village and stuff, and like video village, and now I'm just like, oh, I have to cross the road because the sidewalk's closed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this everywhere.
The city is so, I guess the word climatized. Like the city is so climatized to filming here. It's just part, as you said, it's part of the furniture in Vancouver now.
Yeah, like
it's so normal.
Yeah, it's like all the way up Gastown today. I saw posters saying no, it's filming, and I'm like, okay, like
just
it's
another day in Gastown.
Another day in Gastown. So, but yeah, and like out the back of our old office, we saw them doing those stunts, and like that was so fun because we all just like. So there was this big crew there. We knew that it was shooting something big. I don't know.
Snake Eyes.
Was it Snake Eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was like a huge set going on, and we watched it kind of build up for a couple of days, and then we all stood around for what must have been an hour, just staring out the window, waiting for action, waiting for action, and it turned out way more eventful than we thought. There was like a truck going over the edge of a wall, blowing up some water barrels and crashing onto some cars, and it was really fun to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it'll make me want to go see that movie and try and spot it and be like, I'm up in a window.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
It's awesome. It's so awesome to see it and to be a part of it too when you do something like that. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and I think Vancouver is unique for that, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I think a lot of there is a lot of street filming in Vancouver. And, you know, obviously I haven't lived in LA. I'm sure there's a lot going on down there too, but it's like there's not a huge amount of studios here. Like it feels more on location type stuff is what Vancouver's really known for. Because it gives you that, it's got everything, right? We've got, you know, the downtown, we've got Gastown, which is that like beautiful brick, you know, aesthetic. There's Chinatown, there's the beach, there's the mountains, like there's so many different...
Yep. Like the sea to sky, there's all those waterfalls and things. I think they filmed like a Twilight film up there and stuff.
Yeah, Twilight was here. So many different locations and vibes in such a small space.
Yeah, there's a bit of everything. I think that's what makes it so adaptable for film.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Yeah, so I'm keen to hear if you have any cool stories, on-set stories. Any spring to mind? Did you work on any like big productions?
I did. I the first production I ever worked on was an NBC show called Timeless. That was the job that I got the locations PA as, and that was fun. That was a lot of like period stuff. So, you know, you'd show up to work one day and you're in the 1950s and it's like, and now I'm like in Al Capone's office. And then the next day you're like in World War II Nazi Germany. And I'm like, this is so cool. Fun, you know, like every day is a different world. It's a different experience. And it's just, that's what I really enjoyed about that kind of art direction, I guess you could call it, is just being in so many different time periods. Then following that, I did a pilot called Doomsday. I guess it never went anywhere. I haven't seen it.
Say I've heard of it.
Yeah, that one. One experience was a stunt day too, and this was the show. The pilot was the show that I got the promotion to the training assistant director.
Okay.
It was literally my first day. So you spend, like, before starting the show, I'd spent a week. One thing that I would be responsible for is the radios. So you have 200 crew members, and on the first day of shooting, it would, or at least try and get the radios out to the crew members before we start shooting, because as soon as you're on set, everything is about that radio communication and just being able to talk to people really quickly. So that was like my first big thing. And I managed to get most of the radios out to all the departments early before we started shooting. And the first day was like a huge background day where we had like 50 extra backgrounders. We were in the middle of downtown by the Marine Building. So like Butte Street downtown. And there's it's like a big car chase through the middle of the street, and there's like a drone camera in the sky where they want to get this police SWAT thing, like getting people out of the car, and it's just chaos.
Sounds good.
And it's my first day. I've really got no idea what I'm doing.
Out of your depth.
I've got like 50 radios that I haven't been able to hand out, and everyone's like screaming on the radio to try and get hold of people, and you're like, they're not on a radio. And so this like hugely, it's so stupid that they planned that the first day of production was going to be this huge stunt heavy, background heavy day in the middle of downtown. Ridiculous. A lot. And yeah, so that was my first day. Managed to get everyone on a radio by the end of the day.
That's good. I guess they probably wanted to get the big thing out of the way, the bit that needed a bit more time put in, but organization wise, makes your life very difficult.
Yeah, it was and it was people that you wouldn't usually have on set, right? So sometimes you bring specialized departments in to do certain days. So for example, the stunt department isn't there every day, but there was a huge stunt department there that day. So all of a sudden, they're not somebody that would be hanging out at the studio and had access to me in the week of prep. But
yeah, I guess the days following that would have felt really chill and quiet in comparison.
It was pretty easy after that.
Yeah.
it was like a good kind of like throw you into it and just figure it out moment. Yeah. And I figured it out. It was good.
That's cool. So what made you decide to come to somewhere like Noravera?
What made me decide to come to Noravera?
Well, you sound like you really loved that big film industry. What made you take a turn out?
I was working on a show, you might know it, Lemony Snicket's. Yeah. A series of unfortunate events on Netflix.
The film or the show?
The show.
Okay.
So I did all of season 2 and about 90% of season 3. So we were coming to the end. It was like the last 2 episodes of season 3. And I was in the process of trying to get my permanent residency because I wanted to stay here.
Yes.
Because I fell in love with Vancouver. I really did. And my journey wasn't over with, the 2-year work permit. That
it is just not enough.
It's not enough time. So I made the decision that I was going to commit. I was going to get my permanent residency. I was going to apply, and I was going to stay here, and I was going to keep doing the thing. But to do that, I had to, there's a certain amount of points that you have to get within the permanent resident application. And because I didn't have a full-time job, the company was not Canadian based, it was US based. There's all these factors that weren't giving me points to towards my application.
You literally didn't qualify.
I didn't qualify. So I had to make a really snap decision and decide, I could either finish the show and go out on a high at the show and pack my bags and say bon voyage to the life that I had started creating for myself here. Or I could say, figure it out, make move, change track, change gears, and do what you need to do. And that's what I did. I actually, this is a crazy story. Okay.
Okay, get into it. We got time. It's all good.
So I'm gonna like pause there for a second, and I'm gonna go back 5 years and give you a little bit of backstory here. Okay. So back in Auckland, it was like 2012, I think was the year I went to film school. South Seas Film and Television School, awesome school, 1 year practical course, production management diploma. There was a class of like 12 of us. And one of my classmates was Jackie. And we, the two of us, we were in the production management class, and we had, a bit of a friendly competition, I guess, to get the best project out at the end of the year. So we had
healthy rivalry.
Yeah, healthy rivalry. So yeah, we had obviously first met back in 2012, and we finished our year at school, and then applying for jobs and such outside of that. I think we both got internships, but we both went in our different directions. I think she ended up going to a post-production house and working there, and I went to Sky and did sports. So we were in kind of two different fields, and then we were at a leaving party. She was leaving to go on her Europe trip, and I was chatting to her, and this is what I had planned to move to Vancouver. This is now, 2015, 3 years later. And I said, well, awesome that you're going to Europe. That's super exciting. I'm going to Vancouver. I'm moving there in September. And she's like, are you kidding? Same. So she was off, and she did her Europe trip, and we moved to Vancouver, not kidding, within 5 days of each other.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Nuts.
You two are bound to be rivals for the rest of your lives.
No, we're bound to be friends for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's a little bit of fate there.
Yeah, absolutely. And she had actually applied to Noravera for the position production coordinator in Europe, I'm pretty sure. She had got the job. She had interviewed with Jeff and Brian while she was away. So she was set ready when she was coming in. So I knew that she had got a job with Noravera when I was, working 15-hour days standing in a parking lot, which was great. And then, a couple years passed, and obviously everything happened with me moving through the film industry. And she actually decided that she was going to head home after her permanent residency finished. And
that's good timing.
It was kind of a blessing in disguise, because with me wanting to stay, we were chatting, and she was like, well, why don't you take my job? And so I met with Jeff and Brian, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And I guess she could have recommended you highly because you guys were in competition.
Yeah, we'd been working together for so long. We knew what each other was capable of, right? So she loved Noravera just as much as I do, and wanted to set them up for success. It's obviously super hard for her when she left, because of how much she had put into it, and she was a huge part of growing this company as well. She was the mum that came in that kind of
slapped everyone into shape. Yeah.
She needed someone that she could trust to continue that on. So I was really fortunate that she trusted me with that, and she was able to give Brian and Jeff that recommendation. So
amazing.
That's big for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That it all
and look at us now.
Yeah, and look at us now. So yeah, I'm guessing you would never want to leave Vancouver.
I really don't.
You're set now. I get it. I've caught the bug.
It's hard.
I've caught the bug as well. I'm currently going through my permanent residency application, so I know what you mean about the process. It's a big one. But yeah, 2 years is not enough. And especially, I've actually spent more time in Vancouver in COVID than I have not now.
Damn.
Yeah. So, because I've only been here 2 years. So it's like, yeah, COVID time is overtaken on the COVID time. So I am well and truly not finished in Vancouver and never want to leave. It's just amazing. There's so much here. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot here. And I'm sure you can speak to this as well. It's tough being away from your family and like trying to make that decision, you know? Is it like, do I continue my career here or do I go start again? Like that's a huge decision to have to make when you've made so many strides and the effort that you've put in to moving here in the first place.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I find myself very lucky because I have a very supportive family. Another shout out to the green team.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Hey, Glover fam.
But yeah, so you know, when I said that I wanted to move, my dad's reaction was, I wondered when this was going to happen because he kind of knew that it was going to happen. Mum, I think, was like, I don't really want you to go, but I want you to be happy. The classic mum thing. But like, you know, the whole family, the way they looked at it was, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. And now we've got an excuse to go to Vancouver and visit. So, you know, that makes it a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, you're right. It is difficult starting a whole new life in a different continent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I moved here myself.
Yeah. I was lucky. I had a partner in crime. But I'd still never been here. Landed with two suitcases with my entire life packed up into it, and we got off the airport and was like, "Oh, okay,
we've done
where
it.
do we go?
What have we done?
Where do we go?" And like, we hopped in a cab to go to our Airbnb, and he was like, "Where is it?" We had no idea, and like, I'd never even heard of Burnaby before, and like, just. Okay, yeah.
Oh, you moved to Burnaby right away.
We were in an Airbnb for like 2 weeks in Burnaby.
Yeah.
So yeah, not even close to downtown where we were. So but we had no idea. I was like just Googling stuff every single day. Like, how can we get around? Like, it was all brand new, and it still is new and fresh. 2 years on. Which is really, really nice. Yeah. But yeah, I can see myself here for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's the experience, right? And I'm the same. I have an extremely supportive family who can see what I'm doing for myself. You know, like they're proud of me. That's the biggest thing. They're proud of the strides that I've made and moving across the world and, you know, leaving them behind. It's tough, but at the end of the day, you have to put yourself first. You have to really ask yourself what makes you happy and why are you making the decisions that you want to make? Are you going to regret these decisions? Like, what is your heart telling you? Because if you're going against that gut feeling of like what you really want deep inside, something's gonna rock the boat eventually.
Yeah, and when it comes to all of my big life decisions, I've actually always gone back to that. Am I doing what makes me happy?
Yeah.
Does it feel right? Because like I was doing all maths and engineering and graphic design and stuff like that in
business.
college. Yeah, and you know, dropped it to do something. I didn't know what. I dropped all that kind of stuff. I hated physics. It was awful. And took up like English language and modern history and a media course. And that media course was what then got me into this line of stuff. But that for me was a really, really big learning curve early on, where I was like, oh, I can change paths if I want to.
Yeah.
And like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you meet adults that have got a really long, successful career in one field, and that's what you think is what you have to do. But it's not necessarily the case. When you learn that you can do what you enjoy, and if people are going to support you doing that, if you follow that instinct, there's no decision you can make that you'll actually regret. You might fail and learn from it.
It might hurt.
It might hurt, but you shouldn't regret it.
Yeah.
If you've made that decision based on those factors. So
yeah.
That's how I try to live my life.
That's how I sleep at night.
Yeah, that's how I rationalize my impulses to just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna drop everything and move to Canada.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a... I think I had always really wanted to move away. I feel, you know, I'm not from a big place by any means. I'm from a fairly big city. I think Auckland as a city is like the quarter of New Zealand's total population. So I'm not from a small town or anything like that. I had a pretty city vibe upbringing, but the country in general is pretty small. So I just wanted to be in a space that gave me the ability to explore and just like see things that I wasn't accustomed to, and be a part of a different experience that wasn't my own, and just like see if I could do it.
Yes.
I had no intention of staying here longer than the 2 years when I planned to move. It's just how things developed. It's how decisions I made. The decisions I made have led me to wanting to stay.
Yes.
And that's, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's great for me. In my career.
Yeah.
And my happiness too, because I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
But you think, you know, you do think long term, and it's like, do I see myself being here in 20 years? I don't know. I can't answer that.
And you've got to be okay with that too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, me going through my permanent residency now, I don't actually know if that's going to go through. I don't know if I get rejected. So I could, at the end of the process, this like 1 year process of getting stuff together for that, I may be sent home.
Yeah.
And I would hate that. Like, I would do anything to get back here. But, so you just got to kind of take it one step at a time.
Yes, you do. One step, one day.
One day at a time. But yeah, at the minute, it's going good.
Yeah.
Going good. But yeah, like where I was, where I grew up, little village outside York, and York's like a super old city, super touristy. I remember before I moved to like the neighboring city, Leeds, which is way more modern, lots of agencies there and stuff. I came out of university and was looking for digital jobs in York. I couldn't find one that suited me. Yeah. It's just not that
Doesn't
city.
exist.
It's the industry just does not exist there.
Yeah.
Like, I think I had 3 or 4 tip-offs from people that I knew saying, oh, so-and-so is looking for a website for their small business.
Yeah.
And that's
Great.
about it. You know, nothing sustainable. So I was always after, like, you know, something a bit more exciting. And, yeah, moving here ticked all those boxes, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in progressing into, like, feature editing and things like that? I think it would be a really, really interesting thing to do. But right now, I'm loving being kind of like in a smaller team and focusing on like collaborating and building those relationships. And I think I really needed that when I moved here. It was like second family, a home away from home. So I think if I'd come into a big company where I didn't matter and I was just pushing pixels, you know, I don't think I would love the place as much as I do. Yeah. And feature edit, like anything involved in post-production when you're working on something like a feature or a TV show, that's a long process. Yeah. It's like, you know, how long does it take to edit from start to scratch a feature film? Like a year?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I had the great opportunity when I first got here to shorten the divide with Jeff, because, I mean, that was amazing. I sat down with Jeff, and first time I sat with him and had a coffee with him, and he said, what do you want to do? Like, what's the big goal? And I was like, well, I love action sports. I'd love to edit like an action sports documentary film. And he goes,
guess what I have?
Funny you should say that. I've got a month's worth of GoPro footage. That's totally a mess and in a pile, and we need to make a film out of it.
Here's me biking across Mexico, or sorry, from Banff to Mexico in 30 days?
Yeah,
Is that what he did?
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
crazy.
And he just like trusted me with that.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. It was great to do that. And I loved that process.
Yeah.
Because that was really crafting a story. That was really good. So I think if I was going to do feature stuff, it would probably be documentary.
Yeah.
And most likely sports on music focused. That would be the dream.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because, I like... That's what I watch the most of, you know, like...
That's where your interests are.
Like,
And you have to be captivated by the topic, otherwise it's boring.
Yeah. And, like, my other love is music. And I love behind-the-scenes music documentaries of, like, creating an album. Or, like, a live concert or whatever. Those were the things that first got me hooked in.
Yeah.
And snowboard films. So... if I can end up doing stuff like that someday...
You want a job at Red Bull?
I did for the longest time. I even researched Red Bull, but they don't have offices in Vancouver that aren't admin. So, I think I'd have to jet somewhere else in the world to do that.
That would be so wicked to be involved in that. Like,
in a company
the
like
quality of content that team is pushing out is outstanding.
I literally watch anything on Red Bull because I trust that. I know it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be so good. But
engineers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're pretty much on the hour.
Are we?
Yeah.
Wow.
Time flies.
That did fly.
Yeah. It's been lovely speaking to you, Ash.
Thank you. It's been great speaking to you too. It's so fun. We should do this more often, you know, like talking to people who have gone through similar experiences. It really does put things in perspective.
Yeah, and I'm super grateful for you having your experiences because you've helped no end with mine. And just having someone in the office that understands the stress of visa applications is enough to make it okay.
Yeah, I'm right behind you on that.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
But yeah, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for listening and everyone on YouTube watching. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And we have a newsletter now on our website as well that you can subscribe to if you go to noravera.com.
Great.
Trying to think if I've forgotten any more of the outro. I'm a rookie host. It's my first time.
I think that was pretty good first time.
Oh yeah, and we have new episodes every Thursday. So tune in for the next one. Peace out.
Stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.